These are 14 killers' crazy reactions to their prison sentences. Jeffrey Dahmer. After the police put an end to Jeffrey Dahmer's killing spree, where he murdered and then ate 17 men, he was sentenced to 15 life sentences. But while Dahmer was in court, prosecutors called the sister of a victim to the stands, and Dahmer creepily stared while she freaked out.
Something's out of control! Don't Jeffrey, I killed you,
Ted Bundy. Although he was only convicted of killing 3 women, Ted Bundy was suspected to have killed more than 30 people in his lifetime. While Bundy was receiving one of his death sentences, he dropped his calm, cool demeanor and flipped out on the judge.
Listen, I'm not going through this, and you knew that, Your Honor. Sit down. You know how far you could push me. Sit down, Bundy.
Elaine Wuornos. Convicted of 6 murders in Florida, the damsel of death specifically preyed on men that she felt deserved it. Elaine Wuornos was sentenced to death in court. But instead of freaking out, she just sipped some coffee and gave the judge an eerie glare.
There will be an automatic appeal. You have the right to an appeal. Mr. Glazer, is that going to be handled by you or the public defender?
Your wife and kids get raped.
T.J. Lane. After committing a school shooting in Ohio in 2012 that resulted in 3 deaths, Lane was sentenced to 3 life sentences without the possibility of parole. But while Lane was sentenced, he took the time to turn and disturbingly mock the parents of one of the victims. Damon Kemp. As he was on his way to receive sentencing for the murder of 2 other men, Damon lost his mind. As he was being rolled in the courtroom, he did nothing but scream God like a maniac the entire time.
God! God! God!
Dacene Brown. Charged with the premeditated murder of his girlfriend and her 3-year-old child, Dacene's case was coming to a close until things got put on hold. Once the father of the victim found that out, he looked at Dacene and lost control. Ronnie O'Neill. Once Ronnie was finally taken to court for killing his own 9-year-old daughter and girlfriend in Florida, he was sentenced to death. But during the sentencing, Ronnie showed he had multiple personalities while he pretended to be his own attorney.
That this whole entire case has been tampered with and fabricated.
Michael Madison. Once he was convicted to death for the murder of 3 women, Michael couldn't do anything but laugh in the courtroom. But that laugh set off one of the victim's fathers, who lunged across the courtroom to get revenge. Dennis Rader. Better known as the BTK Killer for his brutal binding, torture, and murder of 10 women in Kansas, Dennis seemed nothing but satisfied when he was sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences in court. He had zero regret. Joseph Zeiler. In 2019, Zeiler was convicted for the 1990 murders of an 11-year-old girl and her babysitter in Florida. But while Joseph was being sentenced, he made it clear that he didn't think he deserved it when he attacked his lawyer. Richard Ramirez. Better known as the Night Stalker, Ramirez was convicted in 1989 for 13 murders and sentenced to death in California. But during his sentencing, he started to shout, "Hail Satan," at the judge. Sean Great. The police had a hard time catching Sean, but once they finally did, he was sentenced to death for the brutal murder of 2 women in Ohio. While Great was being sentenced, the families of the victims gave a rare courtroom standing ovation. Casey Anthony. Although she was found not guilty, Casey was put on trial for the murder of her own 3-year-old daughter in cold blood. During her trial, Casey's own mother took the stand to speak against her, and Casey had a complete breakdown.
On July the 15th, 2008, various things happened. It actually began.
Charles Manson. In 1971, Charles Manson was sentenced to death for multiple murders and running his creepy cult before he was changed to life in prison. During his case, his followers creepily sang while he entered the courtroom, and Charles began acting unhinged when asked a question.
Lord.